All right. Well, thank you for being here this afternoon. My name is Angelica Ramirez Blanks. I am one of the assistant directors in University Career Services, and I will be walking you through different ways to connect with employers during the career fair, that both of which are going to be happening next week, as well as staying in touch with them after the fairs. A lot of times we just think about how do I engage with employers at the event, but it's just as, if not more important to stay in touch after the event. So we did invite one of our employer partners to work with us today, and talk to you a little bit about what it's like for recruiters and how to stay in touch with them. But if they are unable to join us, then I will do my best to answer your questions. We have some that are built in. Sorry, give me just a moment.
Hi, Angelica.
Hi, Ned. Happy
Made
to
it
have
in.
you with us. So sorry for the technical problems.
No worries at all. It happens.
Okay. All right. Well, as I was saying, we are trying to talk to everyone today about how to stay in touch with employers after career fairs, in addition to just some of the basics of what preparing for a career fair looks like. So I am going to, there we go. So as I said already, I am Angelica Ramirez Blanks. Actually, on the line with me is another one of the assistant directors in our office. Her name is Cara Reddish, and she is our lovely data guru. She is going to be hanging out in the chat in case you all need anything. Please feel free to type questions and other things there. She'll also be putting up our survey link for this workshop. So thank you again for your patience as we got this all sorted out. But I'm very happy to say that we are joined by Ned Malone, who is one of our amazing employer partners from the Government Accountability Office. Ned, is there anything that you would like us to know about you?
Well, maybe just that I am a Chapel Hill native and also class of '06 at Carolina. And I wanted to wear a t-shirt that I had from a basketball game in 2005, but it's got like holes in it and stuff. So I was like, maybe I'll just wear a polo instead, but it's Carolina blue.
All right. We love our Tar Heels. Thank you so much for being here.
Absolutely.
All right, so let's get into some things here. So just to let you all know, this is what we're going to be covering. We're going to be doing a brief overview of everything that UCS is here to support you with. We're going to be talking about our fairs coming up next week, give you a couple of tips on how to prepare for those. And then of course, we're going to get to the meat of this, which is how to get in contact and stay in contact with employers, just like Ned. We're going to leave some time at the end for Q&A. So let's get into this. All right, so at UCS, we do a whole lot for you. Most of the time when we engage with students and we say, have you heard of our office? They go, yeah, you guys help with resumes. And that's true, we do. But we also help you with a lot of other things. For those of you in the room who know exactly the path or maybe roughly the path that you would like to take. We help make sure that you are optimizing your time at Carolina and getting relevant skills both in and out of the classroom. So, what does that look like? Helping you get internships, helping you prepare for the workforce, looking over resumes and personal statements, but also CVs, or asking you about graduate school if that's what you're considering. How do you know if a program is for you? Um, all of these things require a lot of time and research and careful introspection, and we're here to help walk you through all of those phases. In the event you don't know what you want to do, then we talk to you about career exploration and maybe trying to find out a little bit more about yourself, and how we can help you reach a new goal or a new dream that would bring you a lot of fulfillment in your career. This is something we spend a lot of time doing. So we want to make sure that our Tar Heels go places where they feel good about their contributions, that it aligns with your values, and that you have some great work-life balance. So this is just some of the services that we offer, in addition to workshops and things like that throughout the year. So please come and visit us. We do one-on-one appointments. We also have these workshops and things that we do more in a group setting. You can meet with a coach one-on-one, both virtually and in person. We're located in Haynes Hall on the second floor, right behind the Campus Y, or you can meet us through Handshake virtually Monday through Friday. We've got coaches available, I think, beginning at 8 a.m. all the way into the evening on Sundays. So please, please, please continue to use our services. All right. So the reason we're here and why we're doing so many prep events is because we've got our 2 fall career fairs happening next week. In the student union on Tuesday, we'll be having a STEM majors fair, which will be, like I said, in person. You can go on to Handshake, same as you did today, to register for this event, and you can see the employers who will be there. You can interact with them. You can reach out in advance. I would recommend taking a look at who will be there and deciding who you want to talk to, and maybe doing some research in advance. The other all majors career fair will be on Wednesday, and that will be done through Handshake. It's all virtual, so you want to go online, take a look at who will be there, and then you can sign up for one-on-one appointments. Some of them are also offering group information sessions. You can sign up for those as well. I always like to let students know that this is available to all majors and all years. So freshmen all the way up to seniors. Yes, employers often talk largely to upperclassmen regarding internships and employment, but this is a great opportunity for you to start engaging with these people. See what kinds of opportunities are out there and how you align yourself appropriately for those. So now we're going to head into some prep tips. I always like to cover just some of the things that will help you all be successful for these events. I know they can be a little nerve-wracking, but not to worry, all of you are going to be just fine. I have this note here about, wait, so what do you do? I say that because we want you to go into this event prepared. We don't want you to just go in and to talk to our employers and say, yeah, so I've never heard of you. What do you do? Even if that's the truth, if you don't know what somebody does, maybe try and do a little bit of background so that you can ask a more skillful question. Before you come, you want to look at who will be there and prioritize the people you go and visit. Then you should be doing the appropriate research on these organizations. Who are they? What is their mission? What do they stand for? What are they doing currently? What are some of their different initiatives? Why are you drawn to them? Is it their mission? Is it the prestige? Is it some combination of those things? There's lots of reasons why we find work that we do, but you want to understand what is your point of connection to this company. Um, when you go up to a table or if you're having a virtual meeting, you want to make sure that you kind of have your pitch down. And what we mean by a pitch is sort of that first little introduction and set of information that you tell a recruiter or a company representative. Usually it includes your name, what year you are, and your major. You want to let them know why you're interested in talking to them. Sometimes it's pretty obvious, right? If I'm talking to Cisco and I'm a computer science major, they know why I'm interested in speaking with them. But maybe I'm a management and society major and I'm interested in talking to them because I want to do HR with this group. That way they know kind of what sorts of positions you might be looking for and where there could be a good fit. Now, remember, you're going to be one of many people at this event. So we want to be courteous and conscientious of one another's time. So recruiters need to be able to talk to lots of students and maximize their time while they're there. So you want to make sure that your pitch is short, sweet, to the point, and that you get appropriate information and ask about follow-up steps. We definitely want you all to dress appropriately. Again, I have a note here, even if it's virtual, dress head to toe as though you were going to a job interview. There's research that shows that you will sit differently, compose yourself differently. It just puts you in a different mind frame, and you want to embrace that. So try and dress as though you were going to work. You can take notes, collect any of their information that they give you, brochures, business cards, things like that. And always, always ask for next steps, follow-up information. For those of you who are going to be only engaging in the virtual fair, make sure you set appointments in advance. These fill up quickly, and I certainly wouldn't want you to miss out on a chance to talk to an employer you're really interested in. As with any virtual appointment, you want to ensure that you test your technology, that you know that you're in a location that's well lit, that either has an appropriate background or that you have a virtual background that works, and make sure that your Wi-Fi connection is steady. Any questions so far? All right, there we go. So, as I mentioned, the goal of today is to make sure that you all know how to get in contact and stay in contact with employers. So at the end of a fair, these recruiters have seen a lot of faces and talked to a lot of people. It's difficult for them to keep track of everybody. So even if you scanned a QR code or filled out a short survey, make sure that if this is an opportunity or a company you're really interested in, that you follow up with an email. And typically within 12 to 24 hours is recommended. Try to reference the conversation that you had with them. If you could, like for instance, maybe you discussed something that was significant in the discussion, maybe you learned where that person was from or you had something in common, try to jog their memories, and let them know that you really are interested in becoming involved with the company in some way, whether that's on a volunteer basis, an internship, or someday as an employee. Definitely follow through on anything the recruiters have asked you to do. So if they said, yeah, send me your resume, make sure that you have a resume that is polished and ready to send off. And even if you've spoken to multiple recruiters from multiple companies, you want to make sure you tailor that resume for that company before you send it off, instead of sending sort of a stock option off to several companies. And that likely won't be as effective. Also, I always like to make sure that you leave an ask somewhere in the email. Make sure you thank them for their time and their willingness to help you, but also ask for clear steps. You're genuinely interested, you deserve to have a response. Ask them, when do they typically do hiring? When are offer letters usually extended? When is the internship cycle? When does that start? What kind of commitment may be involved? All of these things are helpful for you to know. And that also lets the recruiter give you some timelines to work with. So you don't feel like you're getting in touch with them too often. If they tell you, oh, the applications for this open up in February, you know that you probably won't need to touch base with that individual too much until February. You may want to ask, okay, thanks for telling me when that opens. When are decisions typically made? Again, this is helping you shape your expectations. So while I don't condone you bombarding anybody with a ton of questions, it is normal to send a few. And to just stay in touch to let them know that you truly are interested in working with them. All right. So that's enough from me. What I would really love to do here is get some wisdom from our guest, Ned or Dr. Malone. Ned is, like he mentioned, a UNC alum and someone who has been able to work in part of the federal government. So, Ned, I'm hoping that you can help us out with some common questions for recruiters and help our students get a better idea of how to interact with people at fairs and afterward.
Absolutely. Can you guys hear me okay?
I can.
My daughter in the living room also just said, yeah. Um, See ya, Geo. We have work-life balance.
Absolutely.
Flexibility. I
Absolutely.
also just, before I get to the questions, I did just want to briefly add that I was a English and German double major at Carolina. So, really in the humanities space, and have sort of had a journey through the years into more of a social science direction. So that's all to say, English majors, don't despair. If you don't if you don't become a teacher, there's options for us out here. Don't worry. um, but yeah, Angelica, should I just go straight to the questions on the?
Yeah, I'll pan over,
Okay.
and thank you for plugging those English majors. I completely agree. You don't have to become teachers. There's lots and lots of options out there for you.
Yes.
And government is an awesome one.
Hmm.
You did touch on that work-life balance piece. I'm originally from the DC area, so I'm very well
Oh.
versed with lots of people who worked for the federal government or currently do, or some other government agency or contracting company. So
Hmm.
there's lots of options out there to engage in these systems, and there's some really cool opportunities. So let's get into some questions for Ned.
Sure.
So, Ned, let's start at the top here. When you go to a career fair or you're having an employer event, how can students stand out to you?
Sure. Um, so I think some of it is what you've already touched on, just some of those fundamentals, like your pitch being clear, concise, and compelling. I think, being solid on your kind of fundamentals on how you present yourself makes you sort of cut through the noise. Because, like you said, the recruiters and any representatives attending these events see a lot of faces and look at a lot of resumes. And so, being concise and clear and direct is really helpful. I'd also say well-informed questions make you stand out. So, you don't have to be an expert on GAO, for example, if you're talking to me or someone else from GAO. But, I think that it's more memorable if we can tell that you've put a little bit of thought into what we do, and you've done your homework and have some sense of, the kind of work that we do. The other thing I would say is authenticity. And this is helpful for us and for you. You know, just be yourself, present your authentic self. You know, we're really at GAO, we have a heavy emphasis on inclusivity and diversity, and that, you know, that is both for the purposes of our work culture, but also the products that we issue absolutely benefit so much from all those different perspectives and backgrounds and what have you. So, you know, don't think that you need to fit some kind of preconceived mold or type. You know, really just be yourself when you're engaging with us. And I think, you know, when you're being yourself, you're going to be most comfortable and energized, and that's going to help you sort of cut through the noise.
Definitely. I completely agree. I think that going to career fairs and engaging with employers can kind of be intimidating for students, but as much as you can, in your preparation, recognize all the value that you bring to the table. This is a two-way conversation that's going to be happening. It's not you going table to table going, please, please, please give me a job. It's no, I am a knowledgeable, capable person who has some pretty great things to give to the job. So you're both trying to find the best fit, and the best way to do that is to try and cut through some of those nerves, go in confidently, knowing your own strengths, what you're able to offer, and being generous with those talents because employers want them. That's why they're there. So yes, I completely agree. Engage in that authenticity as often as possible. It will help you stand out and allow you to make really genuine connections that even if they don't pay off immediately, could down the line.
Absolutely.
All right. So since you are in this space, well, actually, briefly, because we didn't really touch on GAO much, could you give a brief background on the office?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're the Government Accountability Office. We're a federal agency, and we're part of the legislative branch of the federal government. And
Mm,
so we are legally and technically independent from Congress. You know, we design our own studies, we set our own research parameters and things of that nature. But our primary mission is to inform Congress's work. So basically, what we do is research and analysis for congressional committees is probably about 95% of what we do.
mm,
Um, and we specifically research and analysis for the most part, looking at the federal government itself. So, for example, the study that I'm working on right now, a committee of Congress wrote a letter to us and asked us, hey, can you update us on how the Federal Aviation Administration, the FAA, is doing with integrating drones into the national airspace? So I work on the physical infrastructure team at GAO, and we do transportation, including aviation. And we're getting into drones and commercial space flight recently. So that's just an example of the project that I'm working on, but there's we touch on all kinds of topics from environment to defense to international affairs, you name it. That's the quick and dirty overview of GAO.
Well, thank you for that. I think that was really helpful. And we have so many students who are really interested in having an impact in their futures in the world. They really want. We have a strong policy emphasis here at Carolina. So got lots of people who are interested in policy analysis and how to conduct effective research. So this is a great space for them to be able to interact with, especially because there are so many broad topics covered.
Hmm.
Um, so that's exciting. And we're so happy that you've taken an interest to come back to your alma mater and recruit here. Uh,
Absolutely.
all right. So now that we are taking a look a little bit more at the recruiting process, Are there any kind of deficiencies that you typically see in new career professionals that maybe our students can start to try and develop now to help them as they get into those first jobs?
Hmm. I, you know, I would not say, I wouldn't go so far as to say skill deficiencies, but what I would say, kind of in the same vein, is that I think sometimes there's actually an overemphasis on the hard skills. So, in particular, quantitative data analysis is very sort of in vogue lately, and obviously that's a great capability to possess, and I would not ever dismiss that or undervalue that. But I think there's a risk sometimes of downplaying the importance of the softer skills. And really, I think of those as kind of the bread and butter skills for any employer, but especially for a place like GAO, where mostly we hire kind of generalists.
Yeah,
And those bread and butter skills are critical thinking, writing, um, presenting, things of that nature, communicating. Um, if I think that at a place like Carolina and other great undergraduate institutions, one of the blessings is that you're going to get training with that core skill set, but you also have the opportunity to dip into more specialized, like the harder skills, like whether it's economics or data analysis or something more in the natural sciences.
for sure. So you kind of touched on this a little bit by saying like critical thinking skills, communication skills. Are there any other soft skills that you think are really helpful for students to make sure that they have developed as much as possible before they head into the job market?
Teamwork. I mean, it sounds sometimes kind of cheesy or whatever to talk about like being a great teammate, but it's really true because and that's it's going to vary in how it looks from organization to organization. But at GAO, we do team-based projects, so all of our reports that we produce for Congress are written by teams, usually like a team of 3 or 4 people with an array of stakeholders who contribute. And so, communication is obviously a big part of that, to be able to work with all those different people, but also just, knowing how to listen to people and be deferential and, um, you know, collaborating with others when it comes to designing things or carrying out and executing projects. I think it's all kind of the softer stuff when you're working in the context of other people. And I would say there's not many employers out there where you're really going to be working truly independently, like in a vacuum. You're going to be working with other people and to some degree in some capacity. So get some practice doing that while you're in school, whether it's through projects for your classes or whether it's through extracurricular activities, working in student organizations. If you can come to an interview and say, well, I have experience as an effective teammate, here's an example. I think we really pay attention to things like that.
Definitely. I would completely agree with you. Even a sole entrepreneur who has no employees, if they're a successful one, they have to work a lot with other people.
Right.
So certainly working with others is definitely a soft skill that all of us need to have. Um, like you've mentioned, communication, collaboration, but also being aware of who you are on a team. Are you someone who really likes to be at the helm and be a strong leader and you delegate those tasks? Or are you somebody who may be very technical in your abilities, very detail oriented? Maybe you're very integral at kind of at the editing or executing phases of a project. Recognizing what you bring to a team is really helpful in order to help that team thrive. Um,
Hmm.
So your self-awareness, and if you feel like you're struggling with that, please come to UCS. We can help you figure out what those roles might look like for you based on your strengths and abilities, because that will allow you to more effectively market yourself at events like career fairs.
Hmm. Hmm. Absolutely.
All right, so here's a big question we get often from students. How much does my GPA matter?
um, I certainly remember wondering that myself. You know, I want to be careful in how I answer this because I'm never going to say that GPA does not matter. Um, However, I would say as long as you're meeting a certain threshold of kind of a solid, respectable GPA, differences in GPA are just only going to matter kind of on the margins. They're not going to be difference makers that set candidates apart, at least not at an employer like GAO. I mean, maybe if you're going into academia or, the research sciences or something along those lines, but even then, I kind of doubt it. It's, when we're looking at somebody's academic record, we're looking at the diversity of courses they've taken. Did they get good enough grades? Did they excel on a particular project from a class that they took or something like that? Are they part of any academic organizations? But generally speaking, at GAO, we're pretty fortunate. I think the applicants who kind of self-select into GAO are thinkers and analysts, and that's what we do is analytical work. So they tend to like being students, and honestly, working at GAO is kind of like being a student after you've left school because you just keep learning and learning and analyzing and writing. So I guess bottom line for this question, keep working hard in class, but the GPA is not the end all be all. Don't drive yourselves crazy over something like that. I don't even remember what my GPA was in undergrad.
I don't either. And
You'll be
it's
fine.
yes, you guys will be just fine. If you're struggling, we have lots of on-campus resources, and reach out to your faculty. It's normal to have a bad test or a bad paper from time to time. Um,
Yeah.
that does not mean you're going to be a failure or you won't be able to get a job. Um, but sort of in that same vein, how much does academic major matter? I mean, do we need to be encouraging students to only look at employers that are very much aligned with their major?
I think this is a good question of kind of fit between major and employer. I think, like I said, with GAO, we're mostly looking for kind of, for lack of a better term, like intellectual generalists, people who are good analytical, critical thinkers and can present themselves well, can write really well, effectively, can present orally effectively, can break down a problem pretty quickly. And I think that you can get and develop those kinds of skills from just about, you should be getting that from just about any major at Carolina because of that core curriculum that everybody's going through. Now, I will say, there if there are certain teams at GAO, which I think this is kind of analogous to like more narrow organizations that you're interested in. Like for example, we have a financial management team. We have a science, technology, and analytics team. Those are our more technical teams at GAO. They really do look for people with specific, more technical backgrounds. We also have a cybersecurity team. Um, so, I think this just comes back to kind of doing your homework and, being, like you were saying, Angelica, being self-aware. If you're a technical person, own that and present yourself that way and seek out the employers and the job descriptions that are clearly looking for a technical person. Um, but otherwise, with places like GAO and lots of other employers that are kind of like think tanky or consulting firms, they're actually often looking for generalists who are kind of, versatile thinkers and, like I said, good analysts, basically.
Yeah, I would completely agree with that. Consulting, for instance, is a huge draw at Carolina. A lot of our students are very interested in consulting. And so, one of the things that we have heard over and over from firms is they really are looking for diversity in their employees, because that does lead to better outcomes with clients and with more sustainable solutions.
Hmm.
So that means that your major may be a little non-traditional. Um, it may not be a very logical fit in some ways, but I will say that the onus does fall on you as the applicant to be able to make those connections between your skills, both technical and soft, and the role that you're seeking and the company and their culture or whatever it is. You need to be able to start making these connections so that it's so compelling that it's rather undeniable, um, to where the fit seems rather natural. And then hopefully that is
Hmm.
actually true and authentic, um, to what you bring to the table and what they are trying to achieve in their own objectives.
Hmm.
All right. So really kind of getting into what we're here to discuss, how can students both either before or after a fair, or even maybe just not even at a fair, how can they get in touch with employers? What's sort of appropriate to do here?
I think there are a variety of ways to do this. LinkedIn is great if the employer has a clearly has like an active presence on LinkedIn, and they have recruiters, and maybe they have points of contact listed or other like contact forms, things like that. I would not hesitate to engage through LinkedIn. I think employers are really active on LinkedIn these days, especially during the pandemic. I think that became even more so the case. Um, you know, as far as I think I would, before you reach out, think carefully about the purpose of your outreach. So, for example, if you want to reach out about a specific job posting that you saw, I know at GAO we always have a point of contact listed at the bottom of the job description, and it's usually someone in our human capital division who will do sort of handle more of the administrative side, the front end of a hiring and screening process. Um, but also we have on our website, we have I forget exactly what we call them, but they're not subject matter experts, but they're like resident experts or something, where you can engage more generally with someone at GAO about the work that we do on different topics. So I think for example, my director Heather Kraus is our aviation like guru. So you might, if you're interested in a particular topic, you might seek the person out who matches with that on our website and contact them. But I think the one of the key takeaways here is think about your purpose. um, Reaching out through email or interacting in person are probably the most common ways to do that these days, or LinkedIn. um, you know web contact forms on websites, I think usually that's probably not a great way to go. Your message is just going into a black box somewhere. um, and cold calling, I'd probably say not anymore. That seems a little antiquated at this point. Um, but yeah, I think there are a variety of ways to do it, and just be careful when you're thinking about your purpose, and know what you want to say if you happen to get in touch with somebody, so you're ready to engage with that person, and kind of have the bottom line up front.
Yeah, I would say that that's absolutely true. One thing in the Career Center we often tell students is, don't be afraid to reach out. It's great that particularly recruiters love hearing from potential candidates because, I mean, you all are qualified. You all are fantastic additions to any company. So they do want to engage with you because they want to know this, could this be a great fit? Um, we generally say keep your ask specific. So say, would you have 15 to 20 minutes to talk with me? And then honor that time commitment. If you get on a roll with this individual and you feel like you might need more time, say, hey, I'd like to keep this conversation going. Could we schedule another meeting when as your schedule allows? That way, you've had your chance to talk with the employer. They can put, a name to the face and move from there. Also, some students get really nervous about that type of interaction. They feel again like you're trying to um, ask for something that's too much. Or you feel like you can't ask for that internship or that thing. Usually, a great way to start your interactions with employers is purely on an informational basis. It's not to have an ask right up front. The ask is just their time. Just say, do you have this 15 to 20 minutes to talk to me either about your company, or if you're talking to somebody like Ned mentioned, his supervisor, she's the aviation guru. If you want to talk to her about aviation, then say, I'd love to talk to you about your work or your own career journey. People really enjoy having that type of conversation and passing on little bits of wisdom as they can. So if you can connect more on a shared interest, then chances are you'll reap more from that connection.
Yeah, I think that's great advice. Most people I know are really happy to do this sort of thing and connect with people. They remember being in that position and they can relate to that.
Absolutely. And we have lots and lots of awesome questions that you guys can raise for these individuals to make the most out of those talks. All right. So we have some pretty ambitious students here at UNC, and sometimes they wonder, where is the line between showing interest in a company and just being downright pushy?
Yeah, when I was looking at that question beforehand, I was like, how am I going to answer that? Because it's a tough one. Okay, I'm just sorry about the children here. It's end of the school day, so there might be some interruptions. That's a tough one to answer. There's no harm in being persistent as long as it's professional and concise, like I said before, because most of these people you're reaching out to are probably pretty busy. So I would say, don't hesitate to be assertive and persistent. The line where you get into pushy, could be with frequency of contact. Maybe, sometimes it's hard after you've reached out to somebody and maybe you haven't heard back as quickly as you'd really like to. Try your best to give it just like a little bit more time before you follow up. But follow up, people appreciate follow up. Like, at the same time, don't ever hesitate to follow up, because a lot of these people have just, crazy inboxes, and it's easy for something to come in and then just get pushed down to the bottom. And one note on that, that's a little bit not quite to this question, but email subject lines are really important. You mentioned specificity in your ask or in your message. The subject line is the first thing that somebody sees pop up with a message, and same with like a LinkedIn headline as well. Make sure that it's clear and specific, and immediately gets to what it is that you want to do. So if you're seeking a conversation with, say, my boss Heather, like, seeking conversation about aviation careers or something like that, and instead of something more generic, of course, I can't think of an example right now, but
Student
um,
inquiry.
right, yeah, exactly. Um, but yeah, I think it is a fine line between pushy and appropriately, ambitious. And I would just say, take a breath, check yourself, maybe talk to somebody you trust, especially the folks at career services who are really experienced in this particular space, and share with them, i've I've contacted this employer and I haven't heard back. I'm getting kind of anxious, like what's your advice? And it gets out of your headspace, out of your emotions and your anxiety around it, and helps get you kind of that cold, like more objective perspective on it. So I hope that's helpful.
Definitely, I think it really was. Um, we certainly want to make sure students do feel confident enough to be assertive to go after what they want, but that they are consistently professional. And I agree, as someone who also has a very busy inbox, sometimes all you can see, depending on your view settings on Outlook or whatever email provider you use, it is the subject line. So make it somewhere that I can quickly understand what you need or what you're asking. Um, so all of that was wonderful advice. So we kind of touched on this last question, so I'm going to skip it for now. And Ned, allow you to talk a little bit about staying in touch with the GAO. Let me just, there we go. There's some information you were kind enough to share.
Yeah, so thanks for sharing this, Angelica. So we're really trying to increase our presence on social media. I think we've been most successful with our blog and Twitter, but actually our Instagram, we're really trying to improve our Instagram account. And actually, I think you guys might want to, if you're interested in GAO potentially, I would really check out the Instagram account specifically, because we're trying to make it less about the work that we do, like in terms of like the technical details, and more about what it's like a day in the life of a GAO employee, that sort of thing. So that'll give you more of a
Hmm.
sense of, what would it be like to work at GAO? Um, but yeah, I encourage you to check out these different social media outlets, as well as our blog, which if you go to gao.gov, you'll find I think it's called the Watch Blog. So we're sometimes, our nickname is the Congressional Watchdog. Um, I'm not sure that appropriately, we're not out like hunting people down and like, stuff like that. But we do hold the government accountable and try to create transparency. So, we're a nice watchdog though. Um, Otherwise, staying in touch with us, I think, was my email address included at the beginning?
It was
If
not, we only included the careers link, but you
Okay,
included a tip sheet that I'm going to be
that's right.
giving to Cara to send out along with the workshop survey.
Okay.
And we'll make sure that that gets posted, and we can certainly post your contact information along with that.
Yeah, that's the tip sheet is really helpful. And I'm happy to help people, point you in the right direction if you want to shoot me a message, if you're interested in GAO. Um, so yeah, I would say social media, if you meet one of us at a UNC event, aside from me, if you come to something else where we're there, please, get our card. Don't hesitate to reach out. And like I said, if there's some individual on the GAO website who's an expert, one of our directors, they're happy to engage with people as well. So you should be able to reach us through a variety of angles.
Yeah, I think that that's great. And I think that a lot of employers are taking this more engaging approach. So as you're doing your research, check out the social media accounts for employers. So yes, look at LinkedIn because that is the more professional presence, but also check out these other avenues as well. See what kinds of material and products are out there on the companies, on their employees. I love to hear that the Instagram is actually looking at what it's like to work in this space, which is really great.
Hmm.
Um, because outside of just the actual function of our work, the culture and the people we work with really determine a lot of how satisfied we are in our work. So we want to make sure that it is a good fit. All right. Well, that brings us to our end. Here is the QR code for the workshop survey. We also hope that you'll join us for the career fairs next week. Again, the STEM fair will be in person in the Student Union on Tuesday from noon to 4. And then the all majors one will be virtual through Handshake. You can register for that now and start signing up for one-on-one appointments with employers. Ned, I am so happy you were able to connect with us. Sorry again for any technical difficulties, but
No
I know I
problem.
learned a lot, and thank you so much for joining us.
Hey, thanks for including me. It was great to come back and visit UNC, even if only virtually. I'm always happy to do it. Good luck to everybody.
Yeah, thank you so much. All right, everyone have a great
Thank
afternoon.
you. Thank you. Take care.